guns don't kill America, Republicans do. And, you know, yesterday we had this 28-year-old person shot up, killed 3 9-year-olds and 3 adults in the Covenant School in Tennessee. And Republicans are trying to distract America from what happened by talking about the fact that Audrey Hale was, on some occasions, identified as transgender, on others, you know, in his or her LinkedIn page says he, him. You know, who knows? But this is what Republicans want to talk about. And in fact, I'll give you more details on that in a little bit. But the bottom line here, you know, as much as Republicans want to talk about Hale's personal life, this is not about anybody's personal life. This is about America in crisis because of guns. We are the only developed country in the world that unconditionally allows civilians to own military-style weapons, that allows open carry, and that lets gun manufacturers openly buy politicians. Thank you, Republicans on the Supreme Court. As a consequence, we're the only country in the world where the leading cause of death among our children is being blown apart by bullets. Today is the 87th day of the year. So far, we've had over 130 mass shootings. There have been 33 school shootings so far this year. For comparison, the last time there was a school shooting in the United Kingdom, another English-speaking country with a large population, it's very similar to us. Last time there was a school shooting in the UK was 26 years ago. These guns have been put into America's hands by Republicans. Bill Clinton passed an assault weapons ban in 1994, but Republican President George W. Bush led the charge to refuse to renew it in 2004. And now 1 in 20 Americans owns an assault weapon. Let that sink in. There are 2 simple reasons why Republicans want America drenched in guns and the blood and death that they bring. Number 1, ever since the Supreme Court legalized taking money, politicians taking money from corporations, the entire Republican Party has been on the take from weapons manufacturers. It's just been the logical extension of their being on the take from defense contractors. In fact, there's often a lot of overlap between the two. The second is that there's a substantial part of the violent, white, racist Republican base that is actively arming in preparation for what they believe is going to be a racial civil war in America. And they are being egged on by multiple Republican members of Congress. These America-hating legislators, these sick, twisted bastards, delight in posting their white families, or posing, their white families with assault weapons, and then posting those pictures on social media. It's their way of telling black people and liberals, this is what's coming. And so we see, Lauren Boebert and her kids with assault weapons. We see Thomas Massie and his kids with assault weapons. Most recently, the representative from Tennessee, the guy Andy Ogles, who represents this district of Tennessee, with his 3 kids and his wife all carrying assault weapons. I mean, this is just very straightforward stuff. This is America-hating blood and death and destruction. People are criticizing Donald Trump for saying, oh, death and destruction will come if I get, prosecuted. Death and destruction are already here. Last weekend in Waco, Trump ran clips of the insurrection on January 6th. He ran clips of people beating police officers. 3 cops died as a result of that. And he ran clips of that while he and his cult followers were holding their hands over their heart and singing a national anthem where they were interspersing words by Donald Trump himself. I mean, they were literally celebrating death and the overthrow of America, or the attempted overthrow. I mean, if Vladimir Putin had wanted to kill Americans, he couldn't have done a better job. More Americans have died from gunfire in the United States in the last 3 years than Putin has lost in the battlefield in Ukraine since 2014, when he first invaded. Which reminds me of a September 17th, 2019 article on the NPR website, quote, "The National Rifle Association acted as a foreign asset for Russia in the period leading up to the 2016 election." Right. Nothing to see here, just thousands of dead children. I mean, Republicans will use them as an excuse to ban books or harass drag performers, but they really don't give a damn if our kids die from bullets. America has a bit more than 4% of the world's population, but with more guns than people in our country, we have 40% of all the guns in civilian hands in the entire world. For every 100 people in America, there are 120 guns. The next highest among developed countries is Canada, where, it's largely rural and a lot of people hunt. And there are 34 guns per 100 people. We have 120 guns per 100 people. And this is an entirely recent phenomenon. Before the Reagan administration, the number of guns per person in the United States was almost identical to Canada. But now, as the American Journal of Medicine found, quote, U.S. homicide rates are 7 times higher than in other high-income countries, driven by a gun homicide rate that is 25 times higher. For 15 to 24-year-olds, the gun homicide rate in the United States is 49 times higher. Firearm-related suicide rates are 8 times higher in the United States. Unintentional firearm deaths are 6.2 times higher in the United States. The overall firearm death rate in the U.S. from all causes is 10 times higher. Astonishingly, they added 90% of all women murdered by firearms in the 23 most developed countries. 90% of all women murdered by firearms in 23 countries were killed here in the United States, as well as 91% of all the children killed by firearms killed here in the United States. Thanks to the Republican Party, fully 82% of all the human beings living in the world's wealthy countries were killed by firearms here in the United States. Other countries have gotten their gun violence under control by simply reducing the number of guns in circulation and requiring gun owners to, have registration and a license. I would add we should add, liability insurance, as San Jose, California did just last year. Gallup found that Americans are sick and tired of seeing our children die. 57% of all Americans, 85% of Democrats want stricter gun laws here in America. But Republican politicians are moving in the opposite direction, endorsing gun violence and terror. Remember when Madison Cawthorn said after the Rittenhouse verdict that Republicans should be armed and dangerous? Or Marjorie Taylor Greene said, quote, "Gun rights are the only thing holding back the communist revolution the Democrats are waging." Right, nothing inflammatory about that rhetoric. It used to be that Republicans promoted guns because the NRA paid them to. But now they're openly promoting right-wing-based terror. Kyle Rittenhouse, for example, is lionized by the Republican Party, embraced by the House Sedition Caucus, a popular speaker at Republican political events, fitted on Fox News and right-wing hate radio, celebrated. Here we have this crossfire, pun intended, between 5 corrupt Republicans on the Supreme Court and a fascist movement led by billionaire-owned media machines that have seized control of the Republican Party. Meanwhile, mass shooters, right-wing terrorists, and child killers are celebrating. Every developed country in the world has guns, and most of them have lots of them. But here, we've got Republicans and sociopathic policies and rhetoric causing people to use those guns to murder others. It's the Republican promotion of violence that we saw in Waco this weekend. It's Republican austerity and tax cut policies that have gutted the middle class, leading to an epidemic of homelessness and destroyed our mental health system. And then those same Republican politicians cynically tell formerly middle-class white men that their economic crisis is caused by women or black people or teachers or immigrants or radical Democrats. Nothing to do with the morbidly rich and the big corporations. All while Republican politicians condone the mass slaughter of our children with their silence, their hypocritical prayers, and their refusal to do anything about 400 million guns. The number to call Congress and register your outrage is 202-224-3121. Especially if you have a Republican member of Congress. 202-224-3121. You can call and ask for your member of the House, and you can call that same number and ask for each of your 2 senators. And double check your voter registration. Republicans are purging them like there's no tomorrow.